G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dingle DIY. Now today I want to show you how to put on some 75mm Hebel power panels. What I'm about to explain will also be applicable to the 50mm panels as well. So there's a few things to keep in mind, but we'll jump into it. We'll start with the battens and then I'll explain installing the sheets, cutting them, and anything else you need to know as we go. Where I've started is I had some good weather just before all this rain came, so I bitumen painted the bottom of all the panels where they're going to be in contact with the dirt, and then that way it had some time to dry and we can just slam them on. Now, before we can do that, we need to put our battens on. Our battens, they need to be 1200 centers or less. My panels are 3 meters, but I might be able to get away with just one batten in the middle because our top batten needs to be 150mm down from the top, and our bottom batten has to be 250mm up from the bottom. For me, I'm going to put the battens on by myself. I feel like I can manage that pretty easily. And what I'm going to do is just put some nails or screws into the timber at the right height, so that way I can screw it at one end and let the other end of the batten sit on the screw, and then I can work my way down, screw them on, and then come back later, check them for straightness, and then see if I need to pack them at all. That's pretty much my attack for now. We'll get the batten set out, and then I'll get some reinforcements to help me put those heavier panels on. Let's get stuck into it. Alright, so I'm cutting my Hebel. The first things I want to go through are just, you need regular PPE and a dust mask for sure. Now there is some reinforcing metal inside of these panels, so that's why I'm using a diamond blade in a circular saw. Now you could use an angle grinder, but the good thing about a circular saw is you can set the angle on your base plate, because some of your cuts may need to be angled, especially if they're below a window. You need to put an angle on your windowsill so your water can run away. And that's why I just bought a circular saw specific for this job. It's cheap. The dust will ruin any saw, so you might as well let it ruin a cheap saw than one of your better battery powered saws. So that's all I have to add to that. Once we make the cuts, I'll show you the next step. Okay, so you've seen me fill the screw head holes and the joins themselves. Any excess you want to rub that in as quick as you can, but then at the end of the day, once everything's kind of set up a little bit, just come around with a float, get it nice and flat again before it really hardens, and then that'll make sure you get a nice neat result. Alright, so this here is just some backing rod. It's made out of foam. It comes in different diameters, and what that does, it goes in your control joints. I'll show you a close-up of some control joints that I've done already, but that just means you can fill up a gap with it, put silicone in front of it, and you're not going to have to use as much silicone, and it does actually stop the silicone just falling through some holes or falling through your control joints. As you can see, base coat is happening, but I would just like to recap on all the things that I've mentioned in this tutorial. So we start with our top hats or our battens, screw them to the wall, get them nice and plumb, get them nice and straight in both directions. Once those are screwed on, we can start putting our panels on. You want to pay close attention to where your cuts and where your full panels go. So you want to keep your full panels next to your windows. That's a nice neat edge. Keep that in all the areas that are important, like the cutouts around the windows and things like that. Make sure you fully glue the joints, not just the faces. Fully glue the joints, screw the sheets on, and then you can clean up any excess once your sheets are screwed to the wall. Now, in areas where your sheets will be touching the ground, you want to be putting a waterproofing membrane or some bitumen paint on the bottoms of the sheets. Just want to stop any moisture from wicking up through the sheets. Now, there are a few ways you can also get your sheets started. You can buy metal sections and bolt them to your frame or to your slab, and then sit your sheets on those metal sections. You can also just sit them on a concrete rebate. Now, if you do cut any sheets, make sure you protect the exposed reinforcing metal that's inside the sheet. Make sure you protect that with some rust inhibitor or some bitumen paint again. And the last thing to mention as well is your control joints. Basically, you want a control joint every 6 meters and at your corners. And a control joint basically means a 10mm gap that you later fill with silicone. And that just means you're allowing for expansion and contraction when the weather changes. And that way you won't pop any sheets off the wall or get any nasty cracks in places you don't want them. So you can kind of choose where your control joints are. Usually you put them above your windows, just so that the control joint doesn't run the whole length of the sheet. It's only the section of the sheet that's above the window. That's a good way to work around the control joints. They do get rendered over anyway, but that is a very important thing when you're installing these. And another thing to remember as well is cutting a 15-degree slope on any window sills, just like this. You want to put a bitumen paint or a waterproofing membrane. This here is some backing rod. It's basically foam. It comes in different dimensions, but it's just a round tube. Think of it like cooked spaghetti. You basically, I don't know why I said cooked spaghetti.